I will dramatically increase living standards and build a future. We'll actually build new cities in our country again.
Donald Trump has officially returned to the White House. What could this mean for the housing market? And could his policies shake things up? That's exactly what we're talking about today. The housing market in the U.S. is in a tough spot. Prices are skyrocketing, homes are in short supply, and many Americans are left wondering if they'll ever be able to afford their dream home. Let's take a deep dive into what he's planning and what it could mean for you if you're looking to buy or sell in the next few years. The 2025 housing market? How bad is it? Right now, we're facing a housing crisis. There's a huge shortage of homes. In fact, experts say we need anywhere between 4 to 5 million more homes just to meet the current demand. And with that much of a gap, it's no surprise that home prices are climbing, with projections for 2025 suggesting they'll rise by about 3.7%. So, what's the deal? Why aren't we building more homes? Well, it's a complex problem that's been decades in the making. Construction has slowed significantly since the 2008 housing crash, and even though we're seeing some improvement now, the demand is still far outpacing supply. And it's not just about building enough houses. The rising costs of materials, the lack of skilled labor, and zoning laws that restrict how much can be built are all contributing to this crisis. So, what's Trump's solution?
I will dramatically increase living standards and build a future that brings our country together through excitement, opportunity, and success.
Well, he's got some big ideas for the housing market in 2025, and his policies could totally reshape the way we approach homeownership in the U.S. But some of the top proposals that we have heard from him are quite controversial. Let's dig into them. One of his most controversial moves could be the privatization of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the two government-backed companies that are crucial for getting home loans. Right now, they back about 70% of mortgages in the country. If Trump goes ahead with this plan, mortgage rates could go up, and getting a loan might become harder for some buyers. This could impact the affordability of homes, especially for first-time buyers. So we will keep an eye on this over the next 4 years to see what will happen. Cracking down on immigration.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I'm going to get the criminals out.
Another one of Trump's proposals is to crack down on immigration, which could have a huge impact on the home building industry. Many construction workers come from immigrant communities, and a reduction in the labor force means fewer homes being built. This will only exacerbate the shortage, driving up prices and further limiting options for potential buyers. In general, economists are skeptical that immigrants are the main driver of the current predicament. Chris Herbert, managing director of Harvard University's Joint Center for Housing Studies, said that while immigrants do add to overall housing demand, they cannot be blamed for the recent surge in home prices and rents that took off in 2020 and 2021. That was when immigration reached its lowest levels in decades because of the pandemic, he said, in a statement emailed to news outlets. When immigration started to surge in 2022 and peaked in 2023, Herbert said, growth in home prices and rents slowed dramatically. Trends in interest rates and the pandemic-induced demand for housing were mostly responsible for the recent trends in housing costs, he added. So while it is unknown exactly what effect a mass immigration crackdown would cause, it is clear that the solutions to these problems are not going to be easy. Then there are Trump's tariffs.
We'll impose new tariffs so that the products on our stores will once again be stamped with those beautiful words, made in the USA.
Donald Trump is pushing to place higher tariffs on imports from countries like China and Mexico. And this would raise the cost of construction materials like lumber and steel. On the other hand, tariffs could spur production of U.S. materials used in home construction, Tobin said. That could keep prices low and we would buy more American products, he said. Home builders get a third of their lumber from Canada. And that lumber already has a nearly 15% tariff, Tobin went on to say. If the cost of building homes goes up, those higher costs will be passed on to homebuyers, which means more expensive homes for everyone. However, even if the cost of materials goes up, there are more important factors that determine a home's price. In Southern California and other high-priced areas, it's not the cost of materials that makes home prices high. In Southern California, the land is by far the biggest component of a house price, said Edward Colson, an economics professor at the University of California, Irvine, and director of the school's Center for Real Estate. So, while tariffs at face value do indeed appear to mean that the cost of homes would rise due to building materials potentially increasing, in the long run, it could potentially mean that we produce more of our own building materials here at home. We'll see what the impact of these could be if they do indeed go into effect as Trump has promised to do. Freedom cities.
These freedom cities will reopen the frontier, reignite American imagination, and give hundreds of thousands of young people and other people, all hardworking families, a new shot at home ownership and, in fact, the American dream.
Trump's also floated an ambitious idea that could potentially change the landscape entirely: his Freedom Cities proposal. The idea is to create 10 new cities on undeveloped federal lands, which he says would have affordable housing and even cutting-edge technology like flying cars. But wait, what is a Freedom City? A Freedom City is a concept that former President Donald Trump introduced as part of his 2024 campaign.
We should hold a contest to charter up to 10 new cities and award them to the best proposals for development. In other words, we'll actually build new cities in our country again.
He proposed building freedom cities on federal land to promote innovation, economic growth, and technological advancement. The idea includes massive new cities, developing new cities on unused federal land to encourage population growth and economic expansion, cutting-edge transportation. Another proposal is the potential use of flying cars and futuristic transit systems in these futuristic cities. Manufacturing and job growth. He is also proposing incentives for businesses to relocate to these cities in order to boost domestic industry manufacturing. Baby boom incentives, encouraging family growth through financial incentives. The proposal is part of Trump's broader Agenda 47, which outlines his vision for America's future. While details remain vague, the idea suggests large-scale urban planning with a focus on technology and economic self-sufficiency. It's a bold vision, but without clear details on funding or a timeline, it remains to be seen how this will play out. While Trump has a lot of policies that could certainly impact the housing market, I think it's clear that there are many other factors to the housing market that have a larger impact. Let's dive into some of the other problems facing the housing market and what Trump may do to fix these major issues. Will interest rates go down? Now, you might be asking, what about interest rates? Will they drop in 2025? The answer isn't entirely clear, but here's what we do know. The Federal Reserve is likely to make a small rate cut around March of 2025. This means mortgage rates might come down slightly, but don't expect them to drop enough to make housing affordable overnight. With inflation concerns and other economic factors at play, the Fed has to tread carefully, so rates may not decrease by much. Can we fix the housing crisis? So, what does it take to fix this? To really end the housing shortage, experts say we need to build at least 4 million more homes. If we keep building at the pace we are now, it could take 10 years to catch up. But there are ways to speed up the process. We need to lower the cost of construction, incentivize builders, and loosen zoning laws to allow more homes to be built in urban areas. This is where Trump's plan could have a significant impact. But even with Trump's plans for new cities and some regulatory changes, it's still unclear if his policies will be enough to close the housing gap. Many experts warn that unless we invest in affordable housing and make building easier for developers, this crisis is going to drag on. Should you buy a house in 2025? The truth is there are a lot of factors at play. If rates drop, it might be a good time to buy, but with home prices on the rise and supply still limited, buying a home could still be a stretch for many. If you're waiting for prices to drop dramatically, don't hold your breath. We might see some improvement, but this housing crisis is deep-rooted.
Thank you very much.